right. Y'all know what it is. The rum purple. Yeah, I mean, y'all see the gear on. You know what time it is, man. You know I couldn't pass this video up. Go Birds, you know what I mean? We got one Lamar Jackson fan versus 10 Lamar Jackson haters, you know. Well, now it's 2 Lamar Jackson fans versus 10 haters. So squabble up. Like I said, I don't want to hear no Raven slander on this channel. You know what I mean? We can squabble about that anywhere, anytime, you know what I mean? Other than that, let's get right into it, man. Let me stop playing around.
He's undeniably in the top 10.
Best player in the NFL is Joe Burrow.
No.
Absolutely.
He's never made it to the Super Bowl.
Ravens had the worst defense in the NFL for 9 weeks.
He's got 2 quarterbacks in just the AFC that don't even respect him.
Lamar Jackson.
What kind of shit is that?
Respected players.
Lamar Jackson is Mr. October, and in football, that's not a great thing.
My nigga, you
gotta
got a
be
World
Mr.
Series
January.
hat on.
He has never been that.
Give me 10 quarterbacks over Lamar Jackson.
If you put Baker
World
Mayfield
Series title.
on the Ravens,
Do you believe that in your heart?
This is why he's not in the Super
don't
Bowl
believe
right
it.
now. Congratulations.
He had to
Welcome
walk
to
off.
One Fan
that's
versus 10 haters. We
crazy.
have Jack Settleman, Ravens super fan in the building, who will be taking on 10 of Lamar Jackson's biggest haters. How you feeling about that?
What could you hate that man for?
All right, our first prompt. Lamar Jackson is the best player in the NFL.
If you're going to say he's
Arguably.
the best player in the NFL, yet
Yeah.
he hasn't won anything meaningful, how can you make that argument that he's the
2
best player in
MVPs.
the NFL?
Is Jalen Hurts the second best player in the NFL right now?
I mean, I would say Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL simply because he's won Super Bowls. Also, he's won MVPs.
But Jalen Hurts has
Nobody's
made
debating
it to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. So is the quarterback's team success dependent strictly on the quarterback? Or, like, I'm trying to figure out what your metric is for analyzing.
The quarterback is the most important position on the team.
Agreed.
So if you're going to look at that, you're going to look at Lamar Jackson. Yes, he's been great in the regular season. No one's denying that. But when it comes to winning important games, being the best player to take your team to the next level, he is astoundingly bad. 4-12, more turnovers than touchdowns. You cannot argue that he's terrible in big game situations.
So what do you qualify as a big game? Because you're hand-picking what games.
Any game in the playoffs.
Okay, he's only played the Steelers in the playoffs 1 time, and he absolutely dunked on them the last time. Then he played the Houston Texans last year. He absolutely dunked on them in that game. So the new version of Lamar Jackson has actually been pretty solid.
Has he ever made it to the Super Bowl?
No.
So how can
That's
you say
Josh
that he's the
Allen?
best player in the NFL? He's never made it to the Super Bowl.
Is Jimmy Garoppolo the best player in the NFL? Like, once again, is that how we're gauging it?
I mean, I believe in
That's
order to
funny
have the
metric.
crown of the best player in the NFL, you need to take your team to the next level. Lamar has not yet done that. And more turnovers than touchdowns in games when it counts.
No, that's your
No,
metric
you
for
keep
what
using
game
that,
counts.
yo.
We're talking about playoff Lamar.
But you're not
is-
referencing playoff stats.
I'm just saying
You're just
he has
handpicking
yet,
games.
He has
Yeah.
yet to take his team to the Super Bowl, so you cannot call him the best.
Okay.
I
Let's be
couldn't
honest,
trust
Lamar
this
Jackson is
analytics.
Mr. October, and in baseball and in football, that's not a great thing. You got to be Mr. January, and he has never been that. You want to talk about highlights? You know what I think about? When Lamar threw it into triple coverage, likely, thinking that he was going to get a flag from the reps. That's what he was counting on, the referees to go his way. Unacceptable. Do you know that Dak Prescott has a better passer rating in the playoffs than Lamar Jackson? 92 compared to 75? Absolutely not. Lamar, you want to know why people love Lamar Jackson? Yeah, he's
can't
Mr.
take this
Fantasy.
nigga
He gets the most points fantasy the last 2 years. I call him the parlay quarterback. Now that legalized betting is cool, of course I love Lamar Jackson. He's on prime time all the time. I'm going to make a 4-leg parlay. He's going to go 50 yards. He's going to throw for 200. He's going to get a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. That doesn't matter because the great player, the best player, finds a way to win in January, and he has yet to take that. Let's talk about the strip sack. Let's talk about he hasn't done a butt fumble yet.
Who is your
but that's
team,
the career
yo?
trajectory he's on.
Once again,
Hold up. Who is your team? Whoa. Who is your team, yo? Let's start there, bruh. You wearing the World Series hat, so I don't even know who your team is, my nigga. You talking about the strip sack. Turnovers happen against the best teams in the playoffs. They the best teams. Yeah, he had a couple hiccups early in his career. He's starting to fix those. It was the AFC Championship last year where it was a hiccup, and then it was this year where we really can kind of blame that shit on Mark Andrews. But it was still a few interception and a fumble. But it was a couple fumbles that game. Doesn't really matter. But he's He cherry picking games. He talking about Mr. October when none of that shit matters. You gotta heat up around January regardless. We gotta win those games in October to get a good seeding in the playoffs. You gotta win some of them games in October. So you gotta be Mr. October and January, nigga, if you actually want to speak about it. But you don't know that because you got a World Series hat on, nigga, and not no football hat. Who your team, nigga? Reveal your team. That's what I want to know. Let's get back to it, man.
Team versus like his performance against the Bills inexcusable in the first half. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
2 turnovers.
Absolutely.
His performance in the second half, fantastic.
It got better, but it takes him a while to adapt.
He didn't need to adapt in the first game against Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's Pittsburgh against an aging Russell Wilson.
One of the best defenses in the league.
Granted.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are we talking
He
about?
got one.
Yeah.
Now he's 3-5 in the playoffs.
So play this game with me. Replace
Who's your
Patrick
quarterback,
Mahomes with
yo?
Lamar Jackson. You got Andy Reid as a play caller. You got Spags as a defensive play caller. How would Lamar do in the Chiefs system?
You can't prove that. He's probably gonna make a mistake just based on what he's done in the postseason.
Yeah.
He's gonna fumble. He's gonna miss a snap. He's gonna mess up somewhere just on what he's done.
Yeah. So
Fair enough.
who made the mistake in the second half of the game? Lamar fumbled the ball in the second half of the game. Lamar Jackson dropped a pass that hit him in the chest in the second half of the game.
Fair, okay. So let's put on Mark Andrews, not the guy who gets the ball every snap.
Well, that's just what happened.
That's what happened.
That's-
You
I'm
talking
not
about shit
I'm not
that,
like making up a hypothetical.
yeah, like you
That's-
talking
that's
about
what
shit
Taking the
that
snap
happened.
at center,
Yes,
it's always gonna be on him.
100%. But I'm saying, put him on the Chiefs. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? In your opinion?
He'll find a way to mess up.
I respect your opinion.
I respect yours.
All right, let's keep moving.
Can I just shoot something real
A
quick?
New York World Series
There's
hat.
a reason he went to Louisville. Horses become legendary in Kentucky, not quarterbacks.
So how can Lamar Jackson be
He
the
just
best
wanted
player
to
in the
get that
NFL
out.
when he's got 2 quarterbacks in just the AFC that don't even respect him? His peers don't respect him because if you caught
This
the
a
hot
little
mic,
racy.
it was the 11th
Look at
of
his face.
November. You had Josh
she probably
Allen
don't even mean
and
that,
Patrick
but-
Mahomes post-game talking about how they were going to see each other in the AFC Championship game. I'm sorry, but doesn't Lamar Jackson also play in the AFC?
He does.
Listen, the respect thing, I get what you're saying by just overstepping Lamar Jackson. Well, they did see each other in the AFC Championship, and he did beat him for the MVP. We can't take none of that shit back. But you talking about respect, do you respect them? And why does this go to respect? Like, why does this go automatically go to respect instead of their determination to get back to where they were in the AFC Championship game? Like, I don't understand that. Like, why does that disrespect Lamar Jackson? Lamar don't care anything about that. But since you want to make it a topic, let's make it a topic. How many times have we beat the Bills? They beat us in the playoffs, but we normally beat them when we play them. So we don't, it's not like we don't beat these niggas. We just don't beat them in the playoffs. And one year we will. Like, I can't sit here and argue some of those points, but the respect thing is a little, yeah. And I knew you was going to say Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, but what about when Lamar was hurt for 2 years? And Joe Burrow snuck in there and got one on Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Nobody ever talks about that, though. Nobody ever talks about that, though. So that's why when niggas say Joe Burrow might be the best quarterback in the league, I just say he don't win in the playoffs or get to the playoffs. He don't never have a good defense. Or it's just something about that team that's never right for them to make that run like they did before. So what the fuck are they talking about? Like, I just don't get it. I really don't get it.
Does.
So among peers,
So they don't respect him?
they were counting on
Yeah.
playing each other in the AFC Championship game
That's
when
stupid.
your Ravens, your Lamar Jackson's Ravens,
Yeah.
were expected to make the playoffs as well. They were totally discounting him. So he doesn't have any respect among his peers.
Lamar Jackson's probably one of the most respected players amongst his peers. You ask
I don't
every
understand.
there
What
was
he- what
actually
else
a
he gotta
fan-
do?
There was a player survey that said who's the most overrated player in the NFL, and it was Josh Allen. And that's when the players aren't
That was the
speaking
player
publicly.
survey.
So behind closed doors, what are they saying? They're saying Lamar's awesome and Allen's over.
But they weren't speaking publicly. It was the two of them in the post game. They were shaking hands and they said, "All right, see ya."
So if I said
who
I'll
played
see you
in the
again
AFC
soon, right
Championship
after this, wouldn't that make a lot of sense?
Game last year.
No, because we're never going to see each other again. Number one, and
Where
two,
was the AFC
we
Championship
won't have a
game
date at the
last year?
AFC Championship. Regardless, Lamar Jackson in his career in the postseason, in the playoffs, 7
What we're
years.
talking about
7
is
years.
Lamar Jackson the best player in the NFL now, not over his career.
Okay,
It's just such
okay.
a silly conversation.
It's not a silly conversation because if he wants to be the best player, if you want to
Okay.
call him the best
You-
player, let me finish.
Are you a
let me
content
finish.
creator?
Let me finish.
Are you a content
I'm not.
creator?
Actually,
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
Okay.
What do
so,
you do in your life?
Hold
What
on
do
a
you do in your
second.
life?
No. Let me make my
If
point.
I reference
I'm gonna
something
make
you
my
did
point.
6 years
I'm gonna make my
ago,
point. Let me make
would
my
that-
point.
okay,
His
go.
career record in the playoffs: 3 and 5.
His career record in the playoffs under Todd Monken, 2-2.
Oh, okay. We're gonna talk about coaches. Let's talk about coaches.
Sure.
The coach of the Ravens.
Yes.
Do you think Joe Flacco is anywhere near the skill set of Lamar Jackson?
No.
No. Okay. Well, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl
Yeah.
with the coach of the Ravens.
Yeah.
He threw 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson has never even thrown 3 touchdowns in a single game in the playoff in his career.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's right. I'm cooking. Let's go. That's right. Okay. So no. I mean, I agree with you, Lamar. And by the way, Lamar Jackson has all these single season accolades. You know how many? All of those that Joe Flacco has won? Yeah, like none of them. Not an MVP ever. None of All Pro. Never. Pro Bowl.
what's the
Nothing.
point? What's the point?
So-
I'm a Ravens fan. I know
So
Joe's
if you're
had
gonna
Yeah,
throw
like
out,
we
playoff
sit here
wins.
like,
but
thank
if you're
you.
gonna throw out accolades, well then Joe Flacco has
Wait,
none.
I didn't throw it out.
Joe
You
Flacco has
threw
no
that out.
accolades. And he went and won a Super Bowl with the same coach that Lamar Jackson has. So why can't Lamar do it?
Lamar can do it. He just hasn't yet.
Hasn't yet. Oh. So wait a second now.
Like, what
and
are we
that
talking
drop
about?
that
She's not
everybody wants to
making any
point to with
points.
Mark Andrews in the
Yeah.
end zone. Well, if Lamar Jackson actually did his job and didn't strip sack fumble on the seventh play of the second quarter,
Yeah.
they would have never potentially been in that situation
Agreed.
for Mark Andrews to have dropped that ball. That strip sack fumble put exactly 7 points on the board for the Buffalo Bills 4 plays later. And the Buffalo Bills never relinquished the lead after that.
Agreed.
You can retort though.
It's just like 8 years ago at the start of his
She
career,
cooking.
I was a senior in college. If you pin that stuff on me, I just feel like that would be funny. People grow, they get better, and this is the world's it's really sports media. They're obsessed with just stamping things in the moment, right? Lamar hasn't won it yet. Giannis had never won it. There's Michael Jordan
Like,
hadn't won it. Remember when
yeah.
LeBron James hadn't
The
won a
nigga's
title?
in the
It
middle
just
of his
takes time
career.
for some people. Not for Patrick Mahomes, but for everyone else. Josh Allen doesn't have a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow doesn't have a Super Bowl.
But you keep
There's
propping them
2
niggas
active
up.
starting quarterbacks in the NFL who have a Super Bowl. It's not just Lamar.
So we're saying the best player in the NFL,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's Patrick Mahomes. Let's not. I see what you're doing here. You're doing a great job, all right? Doing a great job, kid. Lamar, we talk about this season. He had all of these weapons. Patrick Mahomes didn't have all these weapons. He
What
had-
the? Whoa. I am not letting that shit go. I'm tired of people saying Lamar had all these weapons. Zay Flowers, drafted. We didn't go find him. We had to make that weapon. Mark Andrews, he was supposed to be a weapon in the playoffs. Drafted. We didn't go find him. We had to make that weapon. Rashad Bateman. Took us a while. Drafted. We didn't have to go find them. We had to make that weapon. I don't want to hear about Lamar having all of these weapons. We got Derrick Henry. Hey, we would have got him last year if the fucking Titans wouldn't have just tried to be stingy with him. But hey, who was to fucking say we wouldn't have won the Super Bowl last year? Exactly. So I don't want to hear about all of these weapons when fucking Patrick Mahomes has DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't want to hear about that shit when he has an all-star fucking cast sitting over there and you telling me Lamar has all of these weapons. Guess what? He lost the Super Bowl. They got their ass beat with Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, who was a former Raven, by the way, drafted, and Juju Smith-Schuster. That's what your ass get. You sound stupid. That's exactly what you get, though.
Zay Flowers. Hold on, let me finish. Yeah, Zay Flowers. He had likely Had Mark Andrews.
Drafted.
had King Henry.
Drafted.
He had Justin Hill.
He ain't drafted.
Who can you compare that to Patrick Mahomes right now?
So you're mentioning all these things, right?
Right.
Lamar had the better weapons. Mahomes didn't.
Yeah.
And in the season, regular season, who outplayed the other player?
Well, if you want to be honest, you say Patrick Mahomes outplayed him. Because if it was that true, he'd be in the number 1 seed. Was the Ravens the number 1 seed? No. Were they the
We
number
going
1
with
seed?
team stats
Ravens
again,
had
man.
the worst defense in the NFL for 9 weeks.
Oh, so you're making excuses for your best player in the NFL?
Is that an excuse or a fact?
Yeah, that's a fact. But at the same time,
Okay.
where's Lamar right now?
When the Ravens didn't have the 32nd
Where's Patrick
best,
Mahomes?
32nd worst defense in the NFL,
all of those
they won
weapons.
every single game.
Has he showed up in big games so far?
Define a big game.
The AFC Championship games that he played in 2019 and 2023. Did he show up?
He didn't play in
Okay.
2019, but in
Yes, he did. 2020? Yes, he did.
in the AFC Championship.
Yes,
no.
he did. When he was an MVP?
It was divisional round, but in that game,
But who did he lose to in both of those games?
well,
Patrick Mahomes.
No, he lost to the Titans in 2019. He had 550 total
Oh,
yards.
the 9 and 7
You don't
Titans.
even know what he's
the 9
talking
and 7
about.
Titans. Oh, okay.
But-
Okay. The best player lost to the 9 and 7 Titans.
But you said, did he show up? He had 550 yards in the game, and the Ravens had 7 drops in the game. Is that
Correct.
a Lamar Jackson
Correct,
problem?
but he didn't show up. Did they
What
win?
the fuck
Did they
is
win
he
that game?
talking
That's
about?
all I want to know. Did they win that game?
I think you know the answer to that.
Yeah, we both know the answer to that,
Yeah.
and that's why he's not the best player.
Okay. That's
Even
good.
right now. Okay, he rushed for what?
did-
900 plus yards this year?
Sure.
And he threw for how much? 4,000 plus?
Yeah. First player ever.
Patrick Mahomes done that for about, let's
Nope,
say,
nope.
6
Never.
seasons.
Lamar
Passing yards?
Lamar-
Passing yards.
But you just referenced the rushing.
What?
Okay, rushing
He
yards.
just
Okay, he rushed for
talking
over
and then
900.
out his mouth.
Name
yo.
one player that's won a Super Bowl that rushed that much. I'll close my eyes. Nobody.
So you're just saying he'll never win a
just
Super Bowl
saying
because
shit.
he's a mobile quarterback?
I said he needs to improve his game. Maybe work on the passing than just,
Like leading
Rushing.
the NFL in touchdown passes, or
yeah.
What the
we could
fuck is
scratch
he
our head,
talking
but as
about,
we
yo?
scratch my head. I look at here. Patrick has 3 to your 0. Have a good day, y'all. See ya.
Lamar
He
Jackson
keep
is a
bringing
top
up
10
team
quarterback
stats, yo.
of
He
all
don't make no
time.
sense.
you know I'm right. I like that.
That's right. Say my first rodeo. Okay. Give me your top 10 quarterbacks of all time.
What are we basing it off of? Because if we're gonna do
Okay,
accolades,
we
I'm
have-
just gonna.
okay,
well,
so
I'm not
it's-
having the
It's
conversation.
a congregate of statistical,
we
like
go.
longevity,
Okay.
winning. Even though winning is a team accolade, winning is important to mix in here because years ago somebody
What
like
kind of winning?
Matthew Stafford would have never been put in this discussion. Meanwhile, that Super Bowl that he won a couple of years ago, for some people, one Super Bowl is good enough. Aaron Rodgers, me being a Jets fan, only has one Super Bowl win, right? He's got a lot of
Let's
NFC
just be
Championship.
clear. You have 0 Super Bowl wins. as a
Yeah,
Jets
I
fan.
understand that. It's miserable.
Yeah, like what the fuck are you even at this
you
table
definitely do have it
for?
a little bit better than me. But
So,
what
like,
I'm
what are we
saying,
talking
though,
about then?
is
Why are you
that
at this table, man?
sometimes
Get the fuck
one
out of the table.
ring can kind of validate the greatness of a player, right? So in the case of Lamar Jackson, who's never going to win a ring, in the event that he does, maybe you could put him in the top 10, right? But as it stands right now, what real argument do you have to put him in the top 10?
So I think the prompt is Lamar Jackson a top 10 quarterback of all time? So there's a lot of,
Right.
it
Is
depends
Dan
what you're
Marino,
measuring
nigga?
on.
'Cause he
I'll
never
admit,
got one.
If you're doing it off of accolades, if you're doing it off longevity, it's going to be difficult for him to be in the top 10 if he's only playing the league for 7 years. You're kind of ending his career when others got 8, 10 more years to play. So if I want to say he's a top 10 player of all time, I like to think of, there's just from a skill standpoint and from a performance standpoint, and acknowledging that the athletes and the players in 2024 and 2025
The most
are at
skilled-
a
one of the most
level that
skillful
the
football
1980s
players
players
ever.
could never touch. And what I mean by that is, like, Dan Marino is going to have better long-term stats, better longevity, but, like, let's be real. Like, put freaking Brock Purdy in that era, and he's probably dicing him up. The same way we say MJ
That's a
used to
fact.
play against plumbers, MJ is not the athlete that Anthony Edwards is today.
Okay, so we're talking
But-
about
but if-
football, by the way.
I
Just wanna
understand, but
bring it
I'm just
back in.
saying. So if you take an athlete, Barry Sanders, he might be Isaiah Pacheco. The athletes
We're
are just-
talking quarterbacks, not running backs.
but I'm saying, if you want to look at, like, who are the 10 greatest players to ever
Yeah.
put on the shoulder pads
It's
and
different
play the position,
schemes,
he's
different play
undeniably in the
calls.
top 10.
Undeniably.
Undeniably.
defense.
It's not even-
I don't know
so
about
give me
that. I
10.
don't know
Give me
about
10 quarterbacks over Lamar Jackson.
Over
time.
Lamar Jackson all time.
All time,
Peyton Manning.
nigga. That's
Okay.
a lot.
Tom
Yeah.
Brady.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Dan Marino. Even though Dan Marino did not
What?
win a ring, he was outstanding for his era. And in an era over the course of, we'll say, the last 10 to 15 years, maybe outside of this season,
I
in a
just
Dan
fucking
era,
said they
Marino
don't put Dan
thrives.
Marino in there.
I will put Rodgers. I will put John Elway. I will put Patrick Mahomes.
Gotta put
Five Super Bowl appearances in 6 years,
Gotta put
3
that.
championships. That makes a difference, right? So right off the bat, I gave you 6 names, right?
Dan
I
Marino
think
don't
that's
fucking
fair,
count.
and we
bro.
can debate the other names here. For me personally, it's like I value longevity, right? I value a guy like Matthew Stafford in this era, right?
Matthew Stafford's better than Lamar Jackson.
I like Brett Favre. Brett Favre,
You think
It's
Brett
a
Favre
similar-
is better
there
than
you
Lamar
go.
Jackson?
they love it too.
Okay.
But now,
They- it
again,
ain't
You
about
need
them.
two
to,
more.
to
You need
your
two more
point,
names.
how much weight are we holding the previous era, right? If we're talking previous era, the guys like Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw, we can debate maybe they weren't individually as talented as Lamar Jackson, but multiple
fuck
time
is he
Super
saying?
Bowl winners.
Sure.
We have to get Lamar Jackson there once. You cannot put him in any top 10 list until we get to that point.
But
That's
you
a
did with
fair
Dan
enough
Marino.
argument.
Have a good day.
You did put Dan Marino in
Valiant
there.
effort. Next.
I said that before he even
Peyton Manning.
started, though.
Tom Brady,
Okay.
Brett Favre,
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Which one of those guys had to bring on the greatest running back of all time to their team to try and make it to the Super Bowl? And they
Now-
still didn't make it to the Super Bowl. That was Lamar Jackson this year. They had to bring on Derrick Henry, basically
got
the
him.
greatest running back of all time.
Did we lose
And they
him?
could not even make it to the
Oh,
conference
shit, I thought we-
championship. You're saying to me, if Tom Brady added on a Derrick Henry, he would have gone undefeated yet again.
He
So,
added on
I'm
Randy
confused.
Moss.
A top 10 player of all
And
time
they
can't
lost.
have a top teammate.
I'm saying when you're looking at the top 10
had
quarterbacks
added
of
Randy
all
Moss.
time,
What the fuck is he talking
So-
about?
you don't remember the running
hate when they
backs.
do this,
Who was
bro.
the running back on the Broncos when the Broncos won the Super Bowl?
So does Marvin Harrison with Peyton Manning count?
I mean, you could say that about Mark Andrews. You could say that about. I'm not talking about receivers. I'm talking about they brought on Derrick Henry
So
to
you're
try
saying
and
it's-
win a Super Bowl. They couldn't even make the conference championship
you're saying-
with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. You have Derrick Henry on your team, man.
So you're saying it's more valuable to have a star running back as a quarterback than a star like wide receiver or tight end?
I mean, regardless, there's still
He don't
star
know. He-
tight
he
ends
in-
on the
he in the-
Ravens. Mark
he in the
Andrews, Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers didn't play in the playoffs,
Okay, but he played during the regular season.
and they were awesome. They had the best DVOA offense of all time.
I'm just saying this. How many wins this year do you think the Ravens would have had without Derrick Henry?
12?
I mean, I think that's
Lamar Jackson-
unbelievable to say.
Wait, based on what? Because Lamar Jackson is the winningest regular season quarterback of all time, and he's never had Derrick Henry. But now with Derrick Henry,
Like,
he's
what the
worth
fuck
4
are
or
they
5
talking- he
wins
went
to the
13
team.
and
Explain
3
that.
last
Nobody-
year?
So he went
Like,
14
what is he
and 2.
talking
His
about?
star running back was Mark Ingram. He went 12 and 5. He had Gus Edwards. He went 13 and 4. He had J.K. Dobbins. But it was Derrick Henry who changed the team this year.
I'm just
What
saying
the
they
fuck
tried
is
to
he
bring
talking
on
about,
Derrick
man?
Henry in order to make a Super Bowl. They could not even make it to the conference championship.
No,
We tried to bring on Derrick Henry last year.
Yeah,
It's not worth it.
I feel like we watched that game.
The reason that he will never get there is because he has all of the things you can't teach. He has talent, he has that it factor, that X factor that you really can't teach. But I just feel like he's not taking care of the stuff you can teach, like learning the book, checking out all your reads before you decide that you're going to run for it. And I think it matters
I
way
think she's
more to
talking about the
him
old
to
Lamar, so
prove
I don't know.
that you can be a top
'Cause
10
what would you
quarterback
do?
of his style than it is to concede a little bit, learn some reads, learn some plays in order to take that team to the Super Bowl. I think it's more important to him personally to prove all those doubters wrong, that he should have been a wide receiver or whatever, than it is to take his team and lead his team to the Super Bowl, which he needs to be considered for that top 10 conversation.
Let me stop that right there. No, the first thing Lamar said when he got drafted was that he wanted to win a Super Bowl. He did not care about the MVP. He didn't care about the accolades or how he did it. He said he was going to bring this team a Super Bowl and that the city was going to be happy. And we holding them to it. But Why would he ever care about any of these accolades? He didn't care about the MVP. He didn't care about any of that. And I think that's probably why most of those media people actually turned on him, is because he said he didn't really care about the MVP. He wanted the Super Bowl. They know he could have got that MVP. Josh Allen got a little, they gave him one. I'm not mad at it. Josh Allen balled out this year, but they gave him one. But as far as regular season, but yeah, either way, I just hate when they do that. Like, how do you know that? And this is gonna sound a little sexist, but it's like, unless she played like flag football or something like that, like what reads are you seeing that you think you can make if you were Lamar Jackson? I don't want to hear that, oh, I'm just a woman. No. If you were Lamar Jackson, what reads would you would have made? That's what I want to figure out, man. So I hate when women do that, only because this is football and you don't see women play a lot of tackle football like that. If it was basketball, completely different conversation. Women play basketball. They know how to play. They play the same defenses and all that. They just don't dunk as much. So, like, yeah. But this is like tackle football, NFL. I'm not saying she don't know how to make the reads, but what the fuck would you have done in that situation? You've never been tackled by an actual man trying to get the ball before, and you've never been in an actual football game, a tackle football game. And you probably never played quarterback before. I'm going to just go ahead and guess that. So what would you have done? I just don't know, and I hate when people do that. So let's get back to it.
Yeah, the biggest knock on Lamar in the AFC Championship last year and then all through the season this year was he actually wasn't running enough. So his mom had to get on the phone with him and tell him he should run a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And he publicized that at a press conference. So I don't really think it makes a ton of sense to say he doesn't really make reads. We know Lamar's at a point in his career where he's gone first read, second read. So I just don't find any of that
in
to
the
be
back of
very
the
true.
pocket.
Do you
forever.
think that he could stand to be a little bit more cerebral when it comes to running the huddle and being a leader of the team in the huddle, rather than being like, physically, I'm going to get it done for you?
I
What
don't
the fuck
think
is she
he's
seeing?
just like a go out and do it guy, personally.
Well, to quote the young Dakota Fanning to the late, great Brittany Murphy in Uptown Girls, fundamentals are the building blocks of fun. And everyone will say that he is having so much fun, but I just don't feel like he's trying hard enough to study and take care of it. I just don't see that from him.
41 touchdowns or 40 whatever touchdowns, 5,000 yards of total offense, 4,100 passing yards, 900 plus rushing yards, first to ever to do it. 4 interceptions. A passer rating 120 plus, I believe, or 119 or something like that. And this is what she says. This is exactly why I'm like, I'm not sure if I can take her opinion seriously, because I don't know if you've ever even been on a field of football when they've played before. I don't even know if you've been on the sideline. Even if you have, I'm just not sure you're seeing the game the same way, because what the fuck are you talking about? Like I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't get it. But you a hater, so we gonna get back to it.
All right. Appreciate it.
Lamar Jackson got to hit the books. Lamar Jackson deserves the 2024 NFL MVP.
He has 2 already.
Because he's black.
Does he really need a third one?
No, he doesn't.
No.
That's that Josh Allen.
It's
you
a little
the
greedy
biggest
now,
hater,
right?
yo.
Yeah.
You the biggest
Can we
hater,
debate
bro.
this
Sure.
for this one moment? Can we give it to a running back this year? Can
Give
we
it to
have a running
Saquon.
back be MVP?
That's the one thing I
If
can
it's not
agree with you
Saquon,
on.
why not his own teammate, Derrick Henry?
What's your definition
with
of an MVP?
Most valuable player.
Okay.
What they
agree.
do on the field.
Lamar had
Of
an
course.
amazing season.
If you
too,
just
but
sit
why
here,
the
you're
fuck
just
we
gonna
give it
say,
to
"Oh well, Lamar's had the best
Josh
stats."
Allen when he stole?
Not
James
really.
Cook.
He did pass for 4,000 yards and he rushed for 900. We get that point. You don't want to bring the playoffs? Hey, we get that point too. But besides that, It's always quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. What about the running back? What about the wide receivers?
They're just not
He just
more
the biggest
valuable.
hater.
I think you know that.
So they're not more valuable, but this is a team sport.
But
Does he score all the points?
No.
No.
Just Saquon?
Saquon does it, but he scored most of them.
Well,
I would
let's
agree
see.
with
Saquon
being the
had
MVP.
16
They
rushing
shoulda let that
touchdowns.
Correct.
Jalen Hurts, his own teammate, have 14.
Yeah, something called the tush push. I could, you throw me in there for 1 yard, I'm gonna push it down.
Okay.
Know what I'm saying,
Lamar Jackson had 44 touchdowns.
congratulations to him.
Well, you're just saying that
Congratulations to him.
you okay.
So what are you saying? You
Biggest
want him to
hater,
be
yo.
MVP
He
again?
the biggest.
Uh,
Yes, nigga,
I think
he
You would
deserved
love
it.
it. You would love to see it happen, right?
No, it doesn't really affect me.
Okay.
I
deserve
think
it.
that he's gonna win it. I think he should win it. I think everyone in Baltimore knows that
We ain't
he,
get it.
us as a fan base, we just want to see him win the Super Bowl MVP. But I don't think running backs are more valuable than quarterbacks. And if that's the definition of an MVP to you, then a running back shouldn't win the MVP. That's all.
This is why he's not in the Super Bowl right now. Congratulations.
The Ravens are holding Lamar
Biggest
Jackson
hater,
back.
yo.
So Lamar Jackson said when he wins a Super Bowl, he's going to switch his jersey number
Respect
to the
your
number
fucking
1.
opinion,
Yes.
bro.
Looking at your jersey, it still says 8. What's the reason? Is it the Ravens holding Lamar Jack, or is it Lamar holding the Ravens back?
He don't
Let's
even know
look
how
at
to say
how
his
this
name.
team has tried to build for Lamar Jackson. Right? Starting 2018, they decide Lamar is their future. And so if we look in their recent past, they draft Zay Flowers early to get him more help and support.
enough.
They got smoked by the Titans in that iconic 28-12 playoff loss years ago. Derrick Henry popped off. So what do? You can't beat them? Join them. They bring Derrick Henry over to the Ravens
Okay.
to supplement Lamar Jackson,
All
make
right.
it a more balanced attack.
Okay.
So you have, not
Two
elite
different
wide
time
receivers, but you have
periods,
a
though.
strong
We got
wide
Zay
receiver,
Flowers
strong
last
tight
year,
ends,
first year.
strong running
with
back.
Zay Flowers.
The offense is there for Lamar Jackson to succeed. But as I showed earlier, in the regular season,
First year with
he
Derrick
could
Henry.
not get that number 2 seed. I strongly believe if he had done better in the regular season, Ravens would have been hosting the Bills. Much better chance they win that playoff game.
Nah,
So I know we
100%
like
right.
to isolate playoffs, regular season. Like, why do we talk about them separately? In this case, if he does a little bit better in the regular season, he makes even just one comeback drive. Ravens get, he had the Bengals drive, so I don't want to give you some.
Yeah,
but,
like, what the
one of
fuck
those
is he
5
doing? Come on, man.
losses, he has a
All right.
comeback drive.
Been listening
Ravens
to
get
you.
the 2 seed. They likely move on. The Ravens are trying to put pieces around Lamar. Lamar's not able to take advantage.
Yeah, they built a really good defense the first few years with Lamar, and then a bad pass game, and so that kind of stunted his growth. And
Yeah.
he's grown incredibly as a passer. And then Zay was awesome this year. He was the first time the Ravens have drafted a Pro Bowl receiver in their history. Defense really struggled to start the year. He kind of had to hold them afloat. And I think when you look at all the
Who was
sympathy
last
for
in
Joe
defense
Burrow,
for 9 games.
like Lamar got it done and Burrow didn't, right? And
Sure.
then so then the back half of the year they built a great team. The games that they lost early on that might have cost them, not to mention they did beat the Bills by 25 points.
We shellacked them niggas,
during the regular
man.
season, but
That's
they
what
allowed
they call
27 to
saying
the
in the media,
Chiefs.
shellacked
They
'em.
allowed 20 something to the Raiders. They allowed
beat the
29
bullshit out
to the
the
Browns.
Bills.
So in games that they lost
We gotta beat them
outside of
niggas in the
obviously
playoffs.
Pittsburgh where he put up a dud. He played pretty well this season. And then
He put
it's
up a
kind of
dud
just
in
how the
Pittsburgh.
cookie crumbles. Like this is just how football works. It's not a
And we
best of
lost to
7
the
series.
Eagles, nigga. They won the
Sometimes,
Super Bowl.
you just end up on the
We
wrong
didn't
side
lose
of it.
by
Sure, but
how much them
in
niggas
these
lost.
cases, like Lamar had the
It would've
chance to win
definitely
at the
been
end
a
of the
more
game, right? It's not that the
competitive game.
defense is playing so atrociously that they're down 20 points going into the fourth quarter. In pretty much every game this season, even the ones they lost, one score, and then the ones they won, sometimes they dominated. Like Lamar is put in a position to succeed. It's not that the
let me-
Ravens are holding him back.
Yeah,
right?
well, I guess let me ask you. Lamar really messed up in the first half of the Bills game.
Gotta finish that
But
comment.
but you're talking about like he can't come from behind. Well, he leads this 88-yard drive with his wide receiver one is I don't even know who it technically was on that drive. And then his most trusted player drops. Like, did you think it was a good throw, bad throw on the 2?
It was fine, and if it was isolated, then sure, you can go and pass. It's just happened too many times, and even in that case, still leaves a minute and a half left on the clock. You know Josh Allen, who's more clutch, is going to
But what's that have to do with Lamar? Lamar doesn't play defense.
Lamar Jackson will win a Super Bowl in the next 3 seasons.
It's hard to
Man,
project
you already know that.
into the future, right?
Yeah, here you go.
Kansas City, the Chiefs model, right? 5 Super Bowl appearances in 6 years, right? They may not go back after this year. They
This
may
is
go
before
back
the
all
Super
3
Bowl when
times
they
after
shot
this
this.
year, right? What we do know
he don't
is
know
that
that
when it
Kansas
comes
City
to
got
all
the
these quarterbacks
bullshit
in the
beat out
AFC, Lamar Jackson,
Like
Josh
that.
Allen, Joe Burrow, we're going to group them together. Only one of these guys has beaten Mahomes in the last 6 years in the playoff game. And
Burrow.
it took a little extra time for him to do it, and he fell short in the Super Bowl, right?
Niggas like
So when you get these opportunities, you got to make the
fucking
most of these
Jaren, man.
opportunities, right?
Patrick Mahomes
Not only
gotta
are we
join
talking
his
about
to beat these niggas.
a Super Bowl, but it's like we got to get it out of the AFC first, right? So until I see Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and again, I commended you the Ravens program before. They're one of the best organizations in the NFL, period. But
That's 'cause we keep
everything
giving
changes on a
players to
dime
y'all,
in the
nigga.
NFL, right? And it's incredibly hard to project. Maybe the Bills, maybe give Josh Allen a 5th try. Maybe he does it. I think he's overrated too. But point being is that
Thank you.
the
At least
Steelers were very,
you
very good
understand.
this year until they fell off in the second half of the season. They have just as good of a program as the Ravens, a great coach, Mike Tomlin, like John Harbaugh. They could always get back to the Super Bowl, right? You look at teams in the AFC West, the Broncos were very, very good. Very good defense.
We beat the
core
bullshit
pieces
out
on
them.
defense, and a promising guy
Did
who
you see that
Bo Nix,
game?
even though he did not play well in the playoff game against Buffalo. A
We
lot of
beat the
promise,
bullshit out the
and I
Broncos.
think he's only going to get better from
Fuck
here on.
is
So
he
you got to
talking
throw a
about? I
team like
was
the
at that
Broncos in
game.
this
I got
discussion,
footage of
right?
that.
A quick
I
question.
should drop
Yes.
that too.
Why do you have promise for Bo Nix and not Lamar Jackson?
Well, it's not that we don't have promise for Lamar Jackson.
So
We're
you do.
acknowledging
So-
that he's very good.
Okay.
But
you think
we've
he's
given
gonna
him-
improve?
We've given him one crack in the AFC Championship game against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs already.
Yeah.
And they scored 10 points.
Yeah.
In a home playoff game.
We lost by what?
They were the
12?
1 seed years ago, and that playoff game against the Titans, right? We've amply set up the Ravens multiple times with the best possible path and track to get to the Super Bowl, and they have not made the Super Bowl yet.
So you're saying
the first
we
hurdle
as
is
if you're like puppeteer.
Yes.
Who put them in that spot?
the Ravens,
Yeah.
the front office.
Like you wouldn't say there's maybe a quarterback who wears number 8 who was
What
a
the
big
fuck is
part in
that's what-
getting them to the number 1 seed.
Yes.
Like, so you would acknowledge, right,
Right.
All right.
that
Nah, I
the
got something
path,
for that.
the easiest path to
Before he go, I'm gonna just say this, and I'm gonna try to make it quick. He's referenced the Titans game, and then he referenced the Chiefs game last year. Who got the bullshit beat out of them in the playoffs 4 times by the Chiefs? Josh Allen. You really should be putting that shit on Josh Allen, not us. If we talking referencing having to go through the AFC to get through the Chiefs. Yeah, we can't beat Josh Allen. That's cool. We'll get around him. We'll figure a way to get around him. But it's really Patrick Mahomes who nobody can beat. And if you really want to talk about somebody who can't beat him, it's Josh Allen. Because he can't beat that nigga in the postseason. Like, we can't beat either one of them. So I don't want to hear that. Can't nobody beat nobody except Joe Burrow beating them. So beating Patrick Mahomes. So if you're gonna put somebody up there, and when you say Joe Burrow, and that's the only reason I may give that nigga a little ounce of respect, because Lamar was hurt that year. Now let's get back to it.
Super Bowl is getting the 1 seed. You play 2 home games,
Yes.
one against the weakest opponent, and then 1 to go to the game, right? By the way, I just want to throw in Lamar Jackson is something like 27-2 against the NFC. So if he does get there,
If he does,
It's a
because
good-
we're now 0 for 2
sure.
with them as a 1 seed trying to get to the Super
but
Bowl.
if he gets there, you would agree they probably have a good chance in the game because on top of
Be a
that,
coin flip.
but on top of that, he's
Still a
also
coin
in
flip.
theory kind of broken through, right? Everyone in this room, I think, agrees he's a special player and he's just come up short.
I don't
So
think
what
everybody in that
happens
room
if he
agree.
does get to the Super Bowl?
There are a lot of other players in the NFL who are special players and have come up short.
So my
That's a
point
fact.
is,
There are
That's
so
a
you're,
many
fact.
you're
factors to
acknowledging
this.
that Lamar Jackson does a really good job of putting the Ravens in a position to get to that spot. So the question is, will he win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years? I'm saying I'll take my bet that if he continues to put them in a 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed over the next years and has improved every single playoff appearance, right? You mentioned 10 points in the AFC Championship 2 years ago. This year, even with 2 turnovers in the game, one then by his teammate, a third one, he still put up 25 points, and if Mark Andrews catches the ball, 27.
Yeah.
So he's shown progress, right, over this time. So
Yeah,
you've
it
got
ain't
a
like we
quarterback
got
who's
the shit beat
continuing
out
to
us that
improve in
game.
his
We
game.
lost by a
And
catch
you're telling me
that we
he's
coulda
going to
tied
put
the game up
his
to.
team in a position to have an easy path to get there. I'll take my chances.
May I make one last point? To
Keep it
reference, in order to get there, the offensive line has to improve and the defense has to improve. Two strengths that the Ravens have always had the last 10 to 15 years are no longer strengths for them.
That's a
And it's
fact.
not going to get any better. So if
Nigga, you
they're
don't
going to
know
make the
that.
Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson, it better get better because there are 4 or 5 teams in the AFC alone. We didn't even talk about the NFC. 4 or 5 teams in the AFC alone
Fact.
who you could
You're
project
not
the next
lying.
couple of years, the next 3 years, that
be
could get
making the
there
Super Bowl.
maybe just as much as the Ravens.
You can't go into the future
You're not lying.
expecting a different outcome when the past has already shown you, how many times he's had the opportunity to go further and couldn't. And you said, you gave an example, right? Like this last playoff game was probably the best playoff game he's ever played, especially from a
One
passer
of,
rating. Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
yeah.
His last 2, every single one before that, wasn't
Yeah,
good.
he's on kind of a upward slope.
Right, his last 2 were his best 2 playoff games. They lost.
Houston in the division round last year, but sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But lost, right? Like this last game, he lost the playoff game.
Yes, they
Right.
lost.
So
that
even
game.
at his best playoff game he's possibly ever played in his career, they still lost. So I'm saying, like, no matter
No,
what,
that's the best playoff game. Number one, it's not the best playoff game of his
Yeah.
career, but let's
Okay.
use the Bills-Ravens game.
Right,
Let's
right,
say
right,
it's
right.
one up.
right?
He hasn't gotten there yet, but he's shown improvement, even within that game as a
Yeah.
microcosm, right? 2 turnovers in the first half. Absolutely brutal.
Right.
0 turnovers, 0 punts in the second half, scored on every drive, including a 90-yard touchdown drive. So, like, as he continues this upward
Yeah.
trajectory,
He was
gives
just
me
starting to fire
confidence
up. If
that
we
it
would
will
have tied
happen.
it up, I
But
think
even
we
with
would've-
that best game it did.
won the game.
So if you can expect
No,
him
no,
to
but
keep
it's
playing
not
better
as-
and better, him
it's
as a
not.
single player, but
Yeah.
the team, you're
The
not
team,
getting
yeah.
there.
So I have a question for you.
Right.
Did you ever think Matt Stafford would win a Super Bowl? Because he was coined as
He
the
was
biggest
terrible
loser in the
in
NFL.
Detroit.
At what point? What do you mean? Did I ever
His
think?
entire career
you young?
with the Lions, everyone's like, "Oh, he's a
He
loser.
probably
He's a
didn't even know he
loser."
played with the Lions.
Go back in time. Peyton Manning hadn't won a Super Bowl at this point in his NFL
Right.
career. Did you ever think he would win a Super Bowl? Does it look a little silly now, looking back and being like, "Well, Peyton Manning"? I was the one saying Peyton Manning wouldn't
Yeah.
win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020, and I mean for every single player ever to win a Super Bowl, hindsight's 2020. To be like, oh, I can look back and say yes, they eventually.
So,
won.
all right. So then the question at hand
So if Lamar
is,
switches a team, then he can go win to the Super Bowl. But no, I
well,
don't think
Peyton,
that either.
Peyton
You don't
won
think he
at the
can do
same
it with
team.
the
But the
Ravens,
question
nigga?
at hand is, do you think he'll win one in the
I
next
don't.
3 years?
I don't. I don't think he's. If you look at even career-wise, Lamar Jackson's not top 10 in anything but rushing yards, and it's because he has the most attempts, right? What you say, shoot 100 shots, you'll make 30 points. He has the most attempts. Doesn't even have the highest rushing average per carry out of quarterbacks. That's still on Michael Vick. He's behind by a whole yard still. So I say Baker Mayfield has more passing yards and touchdowns
Has
than him
more
in his entire
yards.
career, and they were drafted the same year. Baker Mayfield. So if you put Baker Mayfield on the Ravens, do they win the Super Bowl?
Do you believe that in your heart?
From a statistic standpoint?
No. Like genuinely, do you believe that, or is it for the show?
Oh yeah. Do I think if Baker Mayfield
Yeah,
was
I'm
on the
just
Ravens,
sitting
would
here
they win the
like,
Super
what?
Bowl? The way he played this year? Yes. I'm gonna say yes.
Respect the time.
Okay.
Time to go.
Get the fuck
So the prompt
outta
is,
here.
will Lamar Jackson win a Super Bowl within the next 3 years?
Yes.
You say yes.
Yeah, I actually feel pretty confident that if you gave me a bet that said yes or no, I would bet on yes.
So we've established here
obviously.
throughout the course of today that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the AFC.
He got the
Is
bullshit
Patrick
beat out of
Mahomes
him.
retiring in the next 3 years?
No.
So you don't have any inside information on that.
No.
Okay, so I think that it's
You got
silly
a
to say
Chiefs
that Lamar
jersey on
Jackson
right
can
now?
go ahead and beat Patrick Mahomes.
Who's your
He can't even
team?
get past Josh Allen.
That's a fact.
My point being, and you're talking about this growth trajectory, yeah,
But
and
Josh
Lamar
Allen can't
Jackson
beat
has
Patrick
had
Mahomes.
playoff games where he's had a quarterback rating of 10. Another one where he's had a quarterback rating of 18.
You should see Patrick Mahomes'
Okay.
Super Bowl
Growth.
rating.
I'll give you the growth mindset.
Okay.
But does that mean
Hindsight is
Patrick Mahomes isn't
20/20.
going to get any better over the next couple of years? Josh Allen isn't going to get any better? They're all going to be getting better.
Totally.
So how can you say that the growth trajectory of Lamar Jackson would be greater than any of the other top quarterbacks in the league.
Well,
already got
okay,
their piece.
it's a good question. So you mentioned a 10,
think
a passer
Patrick
rating of
Mahomes
10, passer rating 18.
Sure.
Any
We've never
better than he's
seen
already
Patrick
been.
Mahomes play that poorly in the playoffs, right? So when you talk about
We
kinda
did.
like how
Oh,
this
yeah, we
slope could
did.
potentially meet,
The
Mahomes
Super Bowl.
can
Super Bowl.
barely improve, right? He's been one of the greatest playoff
See,
quarterbacks
I
of all time.
disagree.
And what Lamar can continue to step up is a much larger gap. So I guess that would be the answer to your question.
Well, then my follow-up would then be, okay, well, you've like everybody mentioned, you got Derrick Henry. I mean, this is the best statistical year of his career, and he still couldn't
first
get
year.
it done. And you reference a lot in that Bills game about the Bills, and the first half was awful by Lamar Jackson, and then he rebounded in the second half. But in the first half, in the playoffs, when the lights are the brightest, he couldn't get it done. His strip sack fumble set the Bills up almost in the red zone.
Yeah.
And they never regained the lead after that. And no matter what Lamar Jackson did, he couldn't put the team in a position to go ahead and win that game.
Well,
To
that's not true. But
no, but it is because
Yeah.
well, it's
right.
not because he did put them in that position. It was just his teammate dropped the ball.
Well-
and
well-
the
tie the game, not
drive
win.
previous, Mark Andrews fumbled. That was driving to take the lead. So, but let me answer your question. You referenced the turnovers. We've talked a lot about the turnovers.
Sure.
That's the next step for Lamar. You cannot turn the ball over in the playoffs. That's what Josh Allen does incredibly well. That's what Jalen Hurts does incredibly well.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
of course Patrick Mahomes. So, if you're in agreement that Lamar has improved year over year, what is the next step for him?
the next step is to not have a strip sack fumble that leads the
Agreed. Not
the
have
Buffalo
turnovers.
Bills. Agreed. But he
so,
but
so do
Mark,
you think he can make that step?
No,
That's the question.
no, and Mark Andrews,
Okay.
he should have never put Mark Andrews in that position to have to come up with that catch.
Put him
Because
in the
because
position?
the 7 points were attributed to the Bills 4 plays after that strip sack fumble. That's
Okay.
it.
Trump,
Yeah.
you
Game
talk
over.
like a Trump
14-7,
supporter.
game over.
Am I missing the strip sack fumble?
He
Didn't he run?
dropped the ball. He dropped the ball.
Strip sack?
Yeah,
Okay. Definitely wasn't a strip sack
No,
fumble.
it
Anyway.
wasn't a strip sack.
Okay.
but
Drop
yeah.
the
Just seeing if I
Yeah.
missed a play.
Same thing.
Do you see things that he could tangibly improve on from year to year?
I think it's as simple as don't turn the ball over in the playoffs.
That's it?
what makes Patrick
Yeah,
Mahomes
like,
the
what
best
the
quarterback in
fuck are
football
we
right now.
talking
He
about?
protects
He
the ball.
turns
And do
the
you
ball.
think he is in a position to do that himself, or is it based on offensive line,
it's
people
a good,
around
it's a
him?
good question, right? Like you cannot control your teammates, but in the playoff games where the Ravens have come up short, 2019 Titans, did we have 7 drops in the game? Did Lamar have 500 yards? Yes, but he also turned the ball over. Against the Bills, did Mark Andrews drop the ball? Did he fumble the ball? Yes, but Lamar also had 2 turnovers. So yeah, you can't control your teammates, but I think as a team and as a leader, you kind of
That's a good
continue to
point.
instill that mentality, and
Like,
it's
just
got to
make
be
sure
from
you
him
protect
first.
the
He's
ball.
got to stop turning the ball over, and then if his teammates do it, then then maybe it's out of his control.
So, at what point do you say to yourself as a fan, I'm actually kind of mad at this guy, and I don't support
would
him
we?
or as much as I did because I
Yeah.
feel like he's letting
Why
me
would
down.
we?
We see that all across the league now. I'm a
Yeah.
Steeler fan,
Why would we?
and Russell Wilson
get
breaks
the
my
fuck
heart.
out of here. Get
And
the
I've been a
fuck
Steeler fan my
off of
whole
this
life, and I
table.
hate
You
Joe
can't even be
Flacco
here.
more than I hate Lamar Jackson because he's still ruining my life now, and it's been like 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's almost like Lamar.
Steelers fan, you can't be
Uh,
here.
at what point do you become a hater?
That's a good way to end it. Yeah, I don't think I'll be a Lamar Jackson hater.
Yeah,
I mean, this
nah.
might be a cop out, but like off the field and on the field, like he's just a guy
He's the
having a
best
lot of
guy.
yeah, he's just
He's
a
the
good
best guy.
So it would
I
be
don't
tough
know.
to like hate on him. He's had nothing, besides
why
selling
would
some
we
faulty
hate him?
gym
I
equipment.
understand why
Maybe.
y'all hate Russell Wilson.
No, I can't imagine myself being a Lamar hater.
That'll do it for this episode of Fan vs. Hater, Lamar Jackson edition.
Hey man, that was a good little episode right there. That really got the blood flowing. I kind of like some of the points that the other people made, and all of them are some of the biggest haters. I would love to sit there and debate some of them, or get on the show with one of them and debate. But I mean, let me know what y'all think. Were they making valid points? Were they not making valid points? Did I have any of the points? Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll get up with y'all in another one. I'm out. Peace. Ravens, baby.